Or they have him located and they're trying to isolate him. So it's still very active when commanders are saying it's active. Once they have him, if they could get him isolated by himself, they could, change the status.
So Google, which owns YouTube, has put out a statement saying, regarding the YouTube situation, we are coordinating with authorities and will provide official information here from Google and YouTube as it becomes available. Steve Schmidt, I always go back to the horror of 9/11 and the complete reliance. We are in our tribes, we're in our corners most of our lives. I think we just heard some gunshots. Should we listen to that for a second? Control room? Is that not gunshots? Okay. They'll tell us if there's something we need to dip in and listen to. But you think about sort of the way we live most of our lives, having our political debates. But when you look at something like this, we're able to report now that the FBI has been called, and people's lives will literally depend on the FBI and law enforcement being allowed to do their job. They will most likely, if they do what they do day in and day out, make people safer there in San Bruno where there's an active shooter situation. Can you sort of put in context the political reality of sort of watching a president who attacks the Justice Department and the FBI on a near daily basis on his Twitter feed?
Yeah, we're having this discussion about change, and I think this culture of instant gratification applies to our politics, that, well, the kids had a rally and tens of thousands of people marched and people walked out of schools, and now this problem is going to be fixed. And I think to Zerlina's point, that democracy, and I think the American people, to a large degree, are alienated from the hard work of citizenship. It requires participation. It requires commitment. It requires being informed. If you go back to the 19th century, when we were having a debate in this country about whether we should have mandatory public education, the purpose for mandatory public education was to teach good citizens, create good citizens. And so politicians who say, for example, we can't talk about this moment of connection between insane or evil person and high capacity automatic or semi-automatic weapon, it's just stupid. And when people get voted out of office and on the supply and demand curve, that balance changes, you'll see some changes to the gun laws. And I think the other thing too is that there's always been places that are profoundly violent in the country. Inner city Baltimore, Chicago. But I think middle-class white people, as a general proposition, were insulated from it. I think back to when I was a little kid, the summer of Sam, the son of Sam. Mm-hmm. And so growing up in North Jersey, we weren't allowed to go into the front yard after dark. It's silly thinking back on it, but the violence was remote. And now it's everywhere, everywhere.